stuff. But we're going to be taking some stuff we've done already and expanding it, and some of it simplifying it. I mean, like, just do this one.
I forgot to hit go live again.
To have a much better sleep. Or let's focus on your sleep.
Hello to the viewers.
And really cracked into it.
And the replay viewers.
Have that benefit for the rest of your life. And you'll be able to share it with your people around you.
And then the choice with the bigger course is you can pick and choose the things you wanted to do. With this, you're going to have to look at something you might have tried to avoid.
Yeah.
So, like, this is great because you actually have to, like, do what's present, and it's not going to be overwhelming. It's going to be really just beautiful and easy and wonderful. So,
yes.
So he has to go. He has to get on the call.
I have a VIP Zoom thing going on. So, but yeah, most people throw away their juicers and their rebounders, and or at least those are the two things people put in their cupboards or in their garages.
And then they sell them, so you get them on Craigslist. You can get them cheap. So
Jeanette Lemon, go to sleep. All right.
Sleep. What's that?
Bye, you guys. You can click the link there for more info.
Go into our Freedom Alchemist page. There's a lot of testimonials. If you're unsure, reach out, message us. We can answer any questions. But just get in there for $1 or something.
But anytime.
Cancel it at a time. Yeah. There's no stress. So that's just something.
See you later, alligators.
Bye.
Thanks for being here. Crocodiles.
Crocodiles.
That was Paul Green from Hallmark Channel and his girlfriend, fiance, Alchemist, Freedom Alchemist on Hallmark on Facebook. I'm watching the beginning because wait, this is the one that already crashed.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to another little Q&A stirs about our Freedom Portal that we are launching a membership that starts this coming week in 2 days. There's Timmy, there's Disney Beauty 12. What's up?
All right, I heard that part. Where's the beginning of the other part?
I do. I have a VIP Zoom thing going on. So, but yeah, most people throw away their juicers and their rebounders, and or at least those are the two things people put in their cupboards or in their garages. And then they sell them,
so you get them on Craigslist. You can get them cheap. So
Jeanette Lemon.
Why is there only? Where's it? How do I get back to the?
We just lose all of that.
Yeah. We lost that. None of what you shared was on this, unfortunately. But I didn't want to stop you. It was so good.
Oh, no.
We'll wait till they come back, and then we'll rocking that beard. That's right. This shift is good. That's right, Joe. Sorry for you guys just joining back on.
It's 5:39 already.
Some technical difficulties.
Right, hold on.
So blurry. I don't know what's happening. But yes, for those of you tuning in, Kate and I do a usually it's an 8-week course of and connection, and we're launching an ongoing membership that's weekly Zoom coaching with us and a Facebook group. And your own accountability groups, and then weekly nuggets, weekly strategies for you really to discover your areas of sabotage and things from your past that you've made up that may be dragging you down right now, and get completion on things of your past. And so some of the testimonials. Maybe if somebody who's listening has taken our course, if they could share in the comments some of the things they've gotten from it. We've done 3, right? Courses, 4 total, including
5. So, well, I've done one by myself. So, but I've done 5.
Hello.
I've done 4. This is over 3 years. So we've really listened. We've really experienced a lot of amazing people and a lot of wild transformations. Just. People wouldn't believe it at the beginning, but now because so many people have experienced so many big transformations, it's like there's an agreement, and people like boom, boom, it's like popcorn happens more and more and more, and people like pulling it to them faster.
All right.
That was the concept of doing an ongoing membership is to stay in the conversation. It's not just intense and then go. It's like, how do we stay in the conversation? How do we keep making these tiny little changes, little steps that end up transforming our lives? People think it's like this huge big thing. It's not. It's like little choices you make every day.
All right, I heard that part. What? ABC News special report 3 hours ago.
Good morning, and we are coming on the air at this hour for opening statements in the murder trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek
7 hours
in the killing of George Floyd.
and 43 minutes.
It's hard to believe it was less than a year ago, Memorial Day last year, and those awful images seen on video by millions around the world.
All right, let's listen to this.
His knee on George Floyd's neck, a defining moment of this last year, and it brought an almost immediate reckoning in this country on race, justice, and policing. A long overdue conversation, and now, of course, the first trial. And so much of the focus, of course, will be on that deadly encounter recorded by a bystander. Officer Chauvin seen kneeling on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. Floyd could repeatedly be heard saying, "I can't breathe," asking for his mother. His final words would become a rallying cry for protesters all over the country, really all over the world. Officers confronting George Floyd shortly after he left a grocery store. Police have been called after Floyd allegedly used a counterfeit $20 bill to buy a pack of cigarettes. 2 officers arriving, they were on the force for just a week.
Can you hear the
later,
phones
2
there?
more, including former officer Derek Chauvin. Ultimately ending with that scene at the corner of 38th Street and Chicago Avenue, South Minneapolis. Witnesses, of course, recording it all. Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes, as I mentioned, not removing that knee even when Floyd was unresponsive, not until paramedics arrived. We all know that George Floyd died later in the hospital. The 4 officers fired the video, igniting protests first in Minneapolis, then across the U.S., across the world.
Let me check the
including
sound.
London, Berlin, and so many other cities. Officer Chauvin arrested 4 days later, and today he stands trial on 3 felony counts in Hennepin County District Court. The charges include second-degree unintentional murder, the most serious charge Chauvin is facing. The presumed sentence, if found guilty, 10 to 15 years, a possible sentence of up to 40 years in prison. Third-degree murder added to the charges during jury selection, with the presumed sentence of 10 to 15 years, a maximum sentence of 25 years. And second-degree manslaughter, the presumed sentence is about 4 years if found guilty on that count. It has a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. As for what to expect during today's proceedings, the prosecution will begin with opening statements from Jerry Blackwell, we believe, part of the team assembled by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. Blackwell is expected to present evidence showing Derek Chauvin's actions caused the death of George Floyd. Now, cause is going to be a key word in this trial, and from a legal standpoint, they don't have to argue the sole cause, but expect to hear the definition of that cause a lot in the trial in the coming weeks here. The defense will then follow with their opening statement. Chauvin's lawyer, Eric Nelson, is expected to argue his client was doing his job and that he used reasonable and authorized force when kneeling on Floyd's neck. For those more than 9 minutes, they're expected to point to previous training materials. They're expected to point to drugs also found in George Floyd's system. What about now? Can you hear now? The medical examiner said in his report. The judge in this case, Peter Cahill, presiding over the trial. He was a former prosecutor, a public defender, a criminal defense attorney before being appointed to the bench in 2007. No need for me to say this, but enormous pressure on that judge. It was the judge, in fact, who made this decision to live stream the proceedings, saying because of COVID, very few would be allowed in the courtroom, and that this was the only way that the public, that the families would be able to watch, to hear the evidence as it was presented along the way. And of course, this means the country and the world will be able to watch this as it unfolds in that courtroom. This will all play out on the 18th floor under very tight security, given the tension surrounding this case. There are many COVID restrictions in place. Only one member of the Floyd family and one member of the Chauvin family will be allowed inside that courtroom. You see a sketch there. There are 2 seats for reporters, which will be rotated among a pool of reporters over the course of the trial. As for the jury, there are 12 jurors, 2 alternates. 8 of the jurors self-identify as white, 6 self-identify as people of color, 4 self-identifying as black. There are 5 men, 9 women. Before the proceedings begin, I want to bring in ABC anchor Lindsay Davis with more on what's at stake today. And of course, we have no idea over the course of this trial how much race will be brought up, how much the conversation that ensued in this country and really around the world after this. But there's no question that's the lens through which so many people are watching this unfold.
Definitely about race. And I don't have to tell you, David, that this case is so much bigger than what happened 10 months ago in the corner of 38th in Chicago in Minneapolis. On its face, Derek Chauvin Chauvin is on trial for sure. But for many Americans, this nation is on trial. Our criminal justice system is on trial. And for many, especially Black people, this is about black and white. This is about justice for people who aren't specifically involved in this case. This is about justice for Eric Gardner and Breonna Taylor and Daniel Prude and on and on and on, the countless Black people who've been killed by police in this country with very little repercussions or punishment. And I think that that's what makes it interesting when you look at the context, the backdrop of what also was happening in this country on May 25th of 2020 in New York City,
which is
Central
Memorial
Park.
Day.
It's the same day that a white woman called the police on a Black man who was bird watching and threatened that she was going to call and follow through with that to say that a Black man is threatening my life. And so I think that you have one man's knee that has become representative of, analogous, the symbol of the oppression of Black people around the globe. And Martin Luther King III put it this way. He said, the impact of this trial cannot be overstated. An acquittal would mean our criminal justice system must be rethought. It may set a tone for how people perceive whether justice can be achieved specifically for Black people.
In so many ways, larger than this trial.
Exactly.
All right, Lindsay's going to be here every step of the way with me, and I appreciate that, Lindsay. I want to bring in ABC's Alex Perez. He's outside the courthouse. And Alex, if you could just set the scene for us, the security in place, the stakes, what we're expected to hear from the prosecution and the defense this morning.
Sure, David. As you, Lindsay, mentioned, on the streets, the conversation has been so much about race. But inside the courtroom on the 18th floor in that building behind me here, we don't expect to hear a lot about race. Instead, they will be focusing on the nuances of this case. The big focus will be on what exactly killed George Floyd. Now, we know the medical examiner said he had a cardiopulmonary arrest and they found fentanyl and other drugs in his system. And the defense will make the case that that untreated heart condition and those drugs in his system are what caused his death. Now, obviously, the prosecution has one interpretation of his death and the defense has another. The prosecution will say that despite that medical condition, despite those drugs, it was Derek Chauvin's knee on his neck that caused his...
All right, we're going to pause that for a minute and see what DJ Face has to say. All right, where did the notification go? All right, let me look for it again. Oh, I had Periscope pause too. Hold on. Hold on a second. I need to, let me just, how many screens are open right now? Gmail, calendar. Let me check my calendar and make sure I'm not missing anything. I have an REI coupon that expires today. There's a membership hour that ended at Lansu Chinese Garden. All right, let me see. Okay, it opens all the different apps because I need a new battery. DJ Face Music. All right. I need to put on my compression stockings. I'll put in the chat who this is DJ Face. DJ Face. We had, wait, who else did we have? We had the Derek Chauvin trial. And who was on there before that was Freedom Alchemy. Should I go back? Oops, I think I shut Facebook down in the middle of what I had paused. What do you think? Yamaha County is now a Second Amendment sanctuary. What exactly does that mean? We'll explain tonight on the story. Yeah, what does that mean? I don't know. I think we should go back to the Derek Chauvin trial. I'll say hello.
I gotta take it from your man, that's my mission. If his love's really got to handle competition, you only live for 5 months. Besides, he drink too much. His liquor is really blunts, and I'll be working out every day, thinking about you. Looking at my own eyes in the rear view, catching flashbacks of our eye contact. Wish I could lay you on your stomach and caress your back. I would hold you in my arms and eat your fingers. I can't believe it. I ain't had a crush.
What about ABC News? And we'll just... I think ABC News.
Create our own experience to inspire the magic within each other.
I have...
Your whole life in this chapter.
Okay.
Time to get busy living.
Let me check something else.
Tonight, the trial of former Minneapolis
Can you hear that?
officer Derek Chauvin begins. Charged in the killing of George
Let me
Floyd
check.
10 months ago, Memorial Day last year. Today, the jury and millions watching the trial seeing the unedited, horrific images. The prosecutor describing the final moments of George Floyd's life. Officers restraining George Floyd for 9 minutes, 29 seconds. Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck. The prosecutor saying Floyd cried out, "I can't breathe," 27 times. You can hear the witnesses pleading with officers, someone asking officers to check his pulse. The defense attorney for the officer choosing not to address the video that had just been shown to jurors, saying, "Use common sense. There are two sides to every story," telling jurors about the drugs found in Floyd's system. And tonight here, you will hear from the first witness, the 911 dispatcher, and the never-before-seen surveillance. She describes what she was watching on a city camera, saying something was not right, that the officers were on George Floyd for so long, she asked if the screens were frozen. Alex Perez in Minneapolis tonight, Dan Abrams standing by. The other news this Monday night, the head of the CDC and the emotional warning today. Her very real fear of impending doom and saying, "I am scared." The U.S. now averaging more than 60,000 new cases a day. Hospital admissions up more than 10% across 17 states. New York City tonight and New Jersey again with the highest infection rates in the nation. President Biden tonight saying 90% of adults will be eligible for a vaccine within 3 weeks. And the big change coming in a half dozen states, including New York. News tonight about New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, a 10th accuser coming forward. Speaking of unwanted kisses to the cheek while touring flood damage. There is breaking news tonight involving Ghislaine Maxwell, what we have just learned. The college rowing tragedy, the body of a second student pulled from the water. And what it took to finally get the Suez Canal open again. Quite a development today.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Hill.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us as we start another week together. And we begin tonight with the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. It was 10 months ago, Memorial Day last year, and those searing, awful images seen by the nation and the world. It brought an almost immediate reckoning in this country on race, justice, and policing, and a long overdue conversation. Now, the first trial begins. Opening statements delivered today, and tonight we have now heard from a 911 dispatcher for the first time what she was watching play out on a city camera. She said she knew something was not right. The prosecution in opening statements telling jurors Chauvin betrayed the badge, saying this is not about all police or all policing, saying officers have awful jobs, they have to make split-second decisions, but that this was not one of them. And then he played most of that video, former officer Derek Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck for 9 minutes, 29 seconds, as Floyd said he could not breathe 27 times. The prosecution showing the bystanders, demanding the officers stop, demanding they check his pulse when he was motionless. The defense not addressing the video that had just been played, urging jurors to use common sense, that there are two sides to every story, saying there is more to this case than those 9 minutes, 29 seconds, never before seen surveillance showing Floyd taken into custody. And the first witness today, that 911 dispatcher, Jenna Scurry, who was watching that feed come in from a city camera, saying she knew something was not right and saying the officers were on Floyd for so long, she asked if the camera had frozen. We warn you tonight, the images are difficult, and ABC's Alex Perez leads us off from Minneapolis on a case he has covered from the very start.
With the world watching, the prosecution in the most closely followed police misconduct trial in a generation today beginning their case, showing jurors the badge of the Minneapolis Police Department, highlighting the values it represents, compassion and the sanctity of life.
Mr. Derek Chauvin betrayed this badge when he used excessive and unreasonable force upon the body of Mr. George Floyd. That he put his knees upon his neck and his back, grinding and crushing him until the very breath, no, ladies and gentlemen, until the very life was squeezed out of him. You will learn what happened in that 9 minutes and 29 seconds. The most important numbers you will hear in this trial are 929.
Prosecutor Jared Blackwell emphasizing this case is only about the actions of one rogue officer.
One of those things that this case is not about all police or all policing. Police officers have difficult jobs. They have to make split-second decisions. This case is not about split-second decision-making.
Blackwell then preparing jurors for what they would soon see, the video that stunned America, raw, unedited, and played for more than 8 minutes.
You will see that as Mr. Floyd is handcuffed there on the ground, he is verbalizing 27 times, you will hear. In the 4 minutes and 45 seconds, I can't breathe, please, I can't breathe. You hear him at some point cry out for his mother when he's being squeezed there. You will see that his respiration gets shallower and shallower and finally stops when he speaks his last words, I can't breathe.
The prosecutor telling jurors to zero in on one key part.
For roughly 53 seconds, he is completely silent and virtually motionless with just sporadic movements. It is the body's automatic reflex when breathing has stopped due to oxygen deprivation.
Then the video. Chauvin's attorney up next, moving ahead without acknowledging the horror of what the jury had just seen.
Common sense tells you that there are always two sides to a story. There is no political or social cause in this courtroom. But the evidence is far greater than 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
Nelson arguing Floyd struggled and was difficult to subdue.
You will see that 3 Minneapolis police officers could not overcome the strength of Mr. Floyd. Mr. Chauvin stands 5'9", 140 pounds. Mr. Floyd is 6'3", weighs 223 pounds.
He told the jury the gathering crowd demanding Chauvin get off of Floyd created a, quote, high-stress situation.
As the crowd grew in size, seemingly so too did their anger. There are cars stopping, people yelling. There is a growing crowd and what officers perceive to be a threat. Derek Chauvin did exactly what he had been trained to do over the course of his 19-year career. The use of force is not attractive. but it is a necessary component of policing.
Chauvin's defense hoping to create reasonable doubt around what exactly killed George Floyd.
The evidence will show that Mr. Floyd died of a cardiac arrhythmia that occurred as a result of hypertension, his coronary disease, the ingestion of methamphetamine and fentanyl, and the adrenaline flowing through his body, all of which acted to further compromise an already compromised heart.
The prosecutor then calling their first witness, 911 dispatcher Jenna Scurry. She watched the scene play out live over a city camera mounted nearby. She testified that at one point she thought her screen had frozen because the officers were on top of Floyd without moving for such a long time.
My instincts were telling me that something's wrong. Something is not right.
She says as she became so concerned, she phoned a supervising sergeant. Prosecutors playing a recording of that call.
You can call me a snitch if you want to. I don't know if they had used force or not. They got something out of the back of the squad, and all of them sat on this man. So I don't know if they needed to or not.
The jury then hearing from an eyewitness, Donald Williams, who can be heard on that video begging officers to stop. Williams describing the last moments of George Floyd's life.
And like the fish in a bag, you seen his eyes slowly, pale out and again slowly roll to the back of his eyes. He was going through distress because of the knee. And he vocalized it that I can't breathe, I need to get up, and I'm sorry.
Day one of the trial, Alex Perez joins us now from outside the courthouse in Minneapolis. And Alex, we know all of this playing out amid very tight security.
Wait, who said I'm sorry?
Can't breathe, I need to get up, and I'm sorry.
Day one of the trial, Alex Perez joins us now from outside the courthouse in Minneapolis. And Alex, we know all of this playing out amid very tight security on the 18th floor of that government center. That's where the trial is taking place. It's expected to last 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, David, security here isn't very tight. The rest of the building is shut down and surrounded by National Guardsmen. Jurors are escorted in and out of the building by security every day. We expect this to last about 3 to 4 weeks. As you mentioned, the judge says he's allowing this trial to be broadcast so that the rest of the world can watch and follow along. David?
Yeah, that was a fascinating decision. He said because of COVID, so few people are allowed into the courtroom, that was his decision to put it out on a live stream. Alex Perez leading us off tonight. Alex, thank you. I want to bring in ABC's chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams. And Dan, I wanted to ask you about the strategy seen from the prosecution so far. The 911 dispatcher, for one, who called a supervising sergeant. She was watching that city camera, that feed as it was coming in. What does it tell you about what prosecutors are trying to do here?
They want to call law enforcement officials to say he crossed the line. And she's just the beginning. We're going to see the Minneapolis police chief. We're going to see current and former law enforcement officials say that is not reasonable force. And I think that could end up being some of the most important testimony in this case.
Very rare to have law enforcement testifying against one of their own. And Dan, as you point out, the defense today, too, you and I were on the air as this was playing out, and you seemed somewhat surprised by the defense not addressing just how raw, how difficult that video was that had just been played for the jurors.
Yeah, I expected them to say, we recognize how hard that was to watch. We recognize how emotional that is, but they didn't say that. Instead, he simply said he was following his training and he may have been distracted by the people around who were taking videos, etc. I think that's a potentially dangerous argument for the defense to make, that somehow Derek Chauvin wasn't paying enough attention. And I think that it was an error by the defense to not at least nod to, acknowledge the power of that video that those jurors sat there and watched for all that time.
All right, Dan Abrams, our chief legal analyst, with us tonight and with us throughout this trial. Dan, thank you. We will, of course, stay on this right through the end. But we're going to move on to the other major news this Monday night, the pandemic tonight and fears of a fourth wave. The head of the CDC today and her very emotional warning, her fear of, quote, impending doom were her words, and saying, I'm scared, pointing to new cases, hospitalizations, and now deaths rising again. President Biden today announcing at least 90% of all adults here in the U.S. will be eligible for a vaccine within 3 weeks. Tonight, the numbers, 94,686,000 people have now received at least one dose, nearly 37% of all adults. And the new CDC study out tonight showing the effectiveness of the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, encouraging numbers even after one dose. Here's ABC's Eva Pilgrim tonight.
With the country averaging more than 60,000 cases of the coronavirus every day, the CDC director bluntly warning of another surge.
I'm going to lose the script, and I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom. We have so much to look forward to, so much promise and potential of where we are, and so much reason for hope. But right now, I'm scared.
Hospital admissions up more than 10% across 17 states in the last week, and the numbers of death rising too. In Michigan, hospitals seeing a surge of patients in their 30s and 40s.
These are younger group ages at the present time have not been vaccinated.
New York City and New Jersey leading the country again with the highest rates of infection. But after pausing the state's reopening, New Jersey's governor today easing rules on indoor entertainment and outdoor gatherings.
As the weather gets warmer, we are urging everyone to engage in social activities outside whenever possible.
Today, President Biden saying some states should pause their reopenings and called on states that have lifted mask mandates to reinstate them.
We're in a life and death race with a virus that is spreading quickly.
President announcing today that the majority of American adults will be eligible for the vaccine ahead of his May 1st deadline.
At least 90% of all adults in this country will be eligibly vaccinated by April the 19th, just 3 weeks from now, as we have vaccines.
To speed up vaccinations, the administration will open more mass vaccination sites and add 20,000 more pharmacies. The goal, to give most Americans access to a vaccine within 5 miles of their home. Today, 6 more states making the vaccine available to anyone over 16. And starting tomorrow, New York giving the green light to anyone 30 and up. The country has lost nearly 550,000 lives to the virus. Overnight, President Trump's coronavirus task force coordinator, Dr. Deborah Birx, telling CNN she believes most of the deaths could have been avoided had the administration responded more effectively.
There were about 100,000 deaths that came from that original surge. All of the rest of them, in my mind, could have been mitigated or decreased substantially.
And a CDC study recently followed healthcare workers and found that the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were 90% effective at preventing both symptomatic and asymptomatic disease. They appeared to be 80% effective 2 weeks after one dose. The study also suggests that it appears that the vaccines slow the spread of the virus. Now, doctors are reminding patients that you need both doses to be considered fully vaccinated and have max protection. David?
Encouraging use after one dose, but still get that second dose.
What?
Thank you.
Spread of the virus. Now, doctors are reminding patients that effective at preventing both symptomatic and asymptomatic disease. They appeared to be 80% effective 2 weeks after one dose. The study also suggests that it appears that the vaccines slow the spread of the virus. Now, doctors are reminding patients that you need both doses to be considered fully vaccinated and have max protection. David?
Encouraging use after one dose, but still get that second dose. All right, Eva.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I have to mute you while I check a voicemail. Suzanne Bonamici.
Thank you.
Town Hall. All right.
Thank you. And next, a report on the origins of COVID-19 in Wuhan, China, is due out tomorrow, reportedly concluding that the virus most likely spread directly from bats to another animal and then to humans. The 100-plus page report from the World Health Organization in China also finding that it was, quote, extremely unlikely the virus escaped from a Wuhan lab. China's delay in allowing outside experts in has cast a shadow over the investigation. Back here at home, and we turn next tonight to New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo, and now a 10th accuser coming forward.
What about the Sorry,
China's delay in
ADD.
allowing outside experts in has cast a shadow over the investigation. Back here at home, and we turn next tonight to New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo, and now a 10th accuser coming forward. Here's Stephanie Ramos.
Tonight, another woman is coming forward with allegations of inappropriate behavior against New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Sherry Bill claims Cuomo made her uncomfortable when he kissed her on the cheek in front of her husband and son during a 2017 tour of flood damage to her home near Lake Ontario.
He leaned down over me and kissed my cheek. He wedged his face between the dog and mine and kissed me on the other cheek. He said, "That's what Italians do, kiss both cheeks." I felt shocked and didn't understand what had just happened, but I knew I felt embarrassed and weird about his kissing me.
Bill posted this autographed photo of the visit sent to her from the governor's office on her Facebook page at the time. Today, Bill says Cuomo exhibited a highly flirtatious and inappropriate manner, and the encounter was highly sexualized.
I was afraid to report it. I am still afraid of him, but I am no longer willing to remain silent.
She is now the 10th woman to accuse the governor. Cuomo has refused calls to resign, maintaining he's never touched anyone inappropriately.
I never harassed anyone. I never abused anyone. I never assaulted anyone. And I never would.
Bill says she is not pressing charges, but is willing to participate in the New York Attorney General's ongoing investigation into the governor. David.
All right, Stephanie Ramos tonight. Stephanie, thank you. And tonight, ships are moving once again to
She never what?
Tonight after that cargo.
I'll drink some more coffee.
Pressing charges, but is willing to participate in the New York Attorney General's ongoing investigation into the governor. David.
All right, Stephanie Ramos tonight. Stephanie, thank you. And tonight, ships are moving once again to the Suez Canal tonight after that cargo ship that was wedged across the waterway was finally dislodged. Here's ABC's James Longman tonight.
Celebrations on the Suez. Tonight, one of the world's largest ships finally freed after nearly a week blocking one of the world's most important trade routes. A monster bottleneck that could be seen from space. And the container ships alone cost as much as $10 billion in global trade each day they sat idle on the water. Helped by the tides, Egyptian tugboats pulled and pushed from either side, working with specialist engineers from around the world who dredged some 30,000 cubic meters of sand from under the hull. That's enough to fill a dozen Olympic-sized swimming pools. Now, the slow process of easing the huge traffic jam of hundreds of ships has begun, something Suez Canal authorities say will take about 3 days. But the incident is still far-reaching. Experts warning the disruption to global shipping could take weeks or more to unravel. David, tonight the Ever Given will undergo a full inspection at a lake north of where it got stuck, and there will be an investigation. David?
So many eyes on this. James Longman, thank you. When we come back, breaking news coming in involving Ghislaine Maxwell tonight and that college sports tragedy.
When I was in high school, I watched Bob Hoffman of Hoffman's Ice Cream give unconditionally to the community, the first aid, and to kids programs. And because of that, Jersey Mike's mission statement was born, to give and make a difference. And now Mr. Hoffman joins us today.
Thanks, Peter. I am honored to ask all of you to come and be part of Jersey Mike's Day of Giving to help local charities nationwide.
So please join us this Wednesday, March 31st, and make a difference.
Gillette Pro Glide. 5 blades and a pivoting flex ball designed to get virtually every hair on the first stroke. So you're ready for the day with a fresh face for a fresh start. For a limited time, get a 5th cartridge free.
My tip is, the worst lies are the lies you tell yourself. Like smoking isn't that dangerous.
You can quit. For free help, call 1-800-QUIT now.
If you have moderate to severe psoriasis, the little things can become your big moment. That's why there's Otezla. Otezla is not a cream. It's a pill that treats plaque psoriasis differently. With Otezla, 75% clear skin is achievable. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. It may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you. We do it every night.
Like clockwork. Do it. Run your dishwasher with Cascade Platinum and save water. Did you know certified dishwashers use less than 4 gallons per cycle, while a running sink uses that every 2 minutes? So do it with Cascade, the surprising way to save water.
Tonight, Ghislaine Maxwell is facing new federal charges of child sex trafficking. Prosecutors accusing her of trafficking a 14-year-old girl in the early 2000s, a fourth underage alleged victim in the case. Maxwell awaiting trial for allegedly recruiting underage girls to be sexually abused by Jeffrey Epstein. She has pleaded not guilty. When we come back, more on that tragedy for a college rowing crew, another body pulled from the water.
People everywhere living with type 2 diabetes are waking up to what's possible with Rybelsus. Rybelsus works differently than any other diabetes pill to lower blood sugar in all 3 of these ways. Increased insulin, decreases sugar, and slows food. The majority of people taking Rybelsus lowered their blood sugar and reached an A1C of less than 7. People taking Rybelsus lost up to 8 pounds. Rybelsus isn't for people with type 1 diabetes or diabetic ketoacidosis. Don't take Rybelsus if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2, or if allergic to it. Stop Rybelsus and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Tell your provider about vision problems and changes. Taking Rybelsus with a sulfonylurea for insulin increases low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems. Wake up to what's possible with Rybelsus.
Did I? Okay.
Prescription. Ask your healthcare provider about Rybelsus today.
Many plugins are stuck in the past.
What am I trying to
They release
do?
a lot of scent at first, but after a while, you barely know they're working. New Febreze Fade Defy plug works differently. It's the first plugin with built-in technology to digitally control how much scent is released to smell first stay fresh for 50 days. It even tells you when it's ready to be refilled. Upgrade to Febreze Fade Defy plug.
If you have obstructive sleep apnea and you're often tired during the day, you could be missing out on amazing things. Sunosi can help you stay awake for them. Once daily Sunosi improves wakefulness in adults with excessive daytime sleepiness due to obstructive sleep apnea. Sunosi worked for up to 9 hours at 12 weeks in a clinical study. Sunosi does not treat the cause of OSA or take the place of your CPAP. Continue to use any treatments or devices as prescribed by your doctor. Don't take Sunosi if you've taken an MAOI
I'm going
in
to
the
put
last
the.
14 days.
It
Sunosi may
says
increase
not.
blood pressure and heart rate, which can increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, heart failure, or death. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure. Sunosi can cause symptoms such as anxiety, problems sleeping, irritability, and agitation. Other common side effects include headache, nausea, and decreased appetite. Tell your doctor if you develop any of these, as your dose may need to be adjusted or stopped. Amazing things happen during the day. Sunosi can help you stay awake for whatever amazes you. Visit Sunosi.com and talk to your doctor about Sunosi today.
To the index and more on that tragedy for the Iowa State Crew Club. The body of a second student now recovered today after a crew team's boat capsized during practice with 5 members on board. 3 of the students were rescued by first responders and bystanders. When we come back here tonight, the pandemic, our pets, and the power smell.
Who was rescued? Okay, I said I drink more coffee because I.
Whatever amazes you. Visit Sunosi.com and talk to your doctor about Sunosi today.
To the index and more on that tragedy for the Iowa State Crew Club. The body of a second student now recovered today after a crew team's boat capsized during practice with 5 members on board. 3 of the students were rescued by first responders and bystanders. When we come back here tonight, the pandemic, our pets, and the tower smell.
Age-related macular degeneration may lead to severe vision loss.
So the National Eye Institute did 20 years of clinical studies on a formula only found in PreserVision.
If it were my vision, I'd ask my doctor about PreserVision.
It's the most studied eye vitamin brand.
If it were my vision, I'd look into PreserVision.
Only PreserVision AREDS 2 contains the exact nutrient formula recommended by the NEI to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression.
I have AMD. It is my vision, so my plan includes PreserVision.
Everyone remembers the moment they heard, "You have cancer," how their world stopped, and when they found a way to face it. For some, this is where their Keytruda story begins. Keytruda, a breakthrough immunotherapy that may treat certain cancers. One of those cancers is advanced non-squamous non-small cell lung cancer, where Keytruda is approved to be used with certain therapies as your first treatment. If you do not have
I have to register for something at 6 o'clock.
Keytruda helps your immune system fight cancer.
At 7 o'clock.
Your immune system to attack healthy parts of your body. This can happen during or after treatment and may be severe and lead to death. See your doctor right away if you have cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, diarrhea, severe stomach pain or tenderness, severe nausea or vomiting, headache, light sensitivity, eye problems, irregular heartbeat, extreme tiredness, constipation, dizziness or fainting, changes in appetite, thirst or urine, confusion or memory problems, muscle pain or weakness, fever, rash, itching or flushing. These are not all the possible side effects. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, including immune system problems, or if you've had an organ transplant, had or plan to have a stem cell transplant, or have had radiation to your chest area or a nervous system condition.
Today, Keytruda is FDA approved to treat 16 types of advanced cancer and is being studied in hundreds of clinical trials, exploring ways to treat even more types of cancer. It's true. Keytruda from Merck. See the different types of cancer Keytruda is approved to treat at Keytruda.com and ask your doctor if Keytruda can be part of your story.
I'm Steve Dunn. Up next, new at 6, a local couple getting nationwide attention tonight. How you can get a glimpse of video they don't even remember taking while stuck aboard the last cruise ship before the pandemic began. That story coming up next at 6.
Funny to hear loved ones reuniting in this pandemic, including the family dog. ER Dr. Steve Crystal on the front line since this pandemic began. He's not seen his daughter Hayden or her Australian Shepherd Bitsy, who is blind and deaf, in more than a year. Now fully vaccinated, this is the moment in Pueblo, Colorado. Bitsy knew her grandfather sent. The doctor, finally here for a visit. In Fort Meade, Florida, 10-year-old Tyler Bandy reunited with Bruiser, missing for months in the pandemic.
Hey, Bruiser's like a brother to me. He was missing for 2 months. We're so happy he's back.
The dogs and the much-needed joy more than a year into this pandemic. The grandfather, the doctor, and the dog who knew exactly his home. Bruiser's back home and the dog and the doctor back together. Good night.
Find out if your favorites make it to America's Vote.
There's only one more slot in our top 24.
American Idol, new ABC tonight.
Now at 6 tonight, as more kids head back to the classroom, we're hearing from the director of the Oregon Department of Education how the state plans to monitor COVID on campus and keep families involved. A Forest Grove couple made headlines last year getting stuck on a cruise, quarantined for weeks when the pandemic first began. Tonight, they're telling us their story. After nearly a year of protests, the city leaders are inviting members of the BIPOC community to weigh in on policing in Portland. How this meeting
I'm going to check my game
across the city.
Mr. Derek Chauvin betrayed this badge. Derek Chauvin did exactly what he had been trained to do.
A case being watched across the country tonight. We'll break down the opening statements in the Derek Chauvin trial as he faces charges in the death of George Floyd. As virtual learning has increased the amount of time kids spend online, it also puts them more at risk to digital predators. How sites are cracking down on adults contacting children on social media.
This is KQ News at 6 on your side.
We teach them about COVID-19 tactics as well as risk management to limit the spread of COVID-19.
The Oregon Department of Education looking at new tools to make up for staffing shortages and improve safety
as they bring students back into the classroom. Good evening. Thanks for joining us for K2 News at 6, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn.
And I'm Deborah Knapp. This comes as the health authority says it witnessed a slight increase in cases over the last week. K2's Megan Allison joins us live now. So Megan, how are guidelines shifting as more schools bring students back onto campus?
Well, Deb, the CDC is now recommending all students and staff who develop symptoms on campus be referred for testing, and close to 1,000 schools have already registered with the state to make this possible. This provides training and lab connections for campus partners, and testing is required in Oregon for those opening outside of advisory metrics. OHA says in the last week, there were 21 cases reported associated with a school, and 4 schools had 2 or more cases. The next hurdle is staffing. With a shortage of nurses and clinically trained staff, the state is now working to train more school employees on identifying positive cases on campus, as well as notify families of exposure.
We are not training them to be epidemiologists. We're not training them to get a job with their local public health authority. But we really look at how do they complement the existing system so that we can assure that families impacted by COVID-19, whether a student tests positive or a student is exposed, get the appropriate information.
The staff who receive the training could vary from school to school, including nurses, administrators, or secretaries. The state hopes this will provide guidance and resources for families. And we're also hearing more from local districts working to meet new guidelines and expand access for students. We'll have more on that. Live in Northeast Portland. Megan Allison, K2 News.
Megan, thank you. Let's take a look at the latest number in the pandemic. Today, the Oregon Health Authority reported 217 new cases, no new deaths. More than 164,000 Oregonians have tested positive for the virus since the beginning of the pandemic. Our county reports 143 cases over the weekend, about 48 cases per day. 1 more person has died.
Also today, hundreds of thousands of residents in Oregon became eligible for the coronavirus vaccine. On Wednesday, Washington expands its eligibility. All this coming at the right time, according to health officials, as they have seen a lull in the interest in the vaccine among eligible groups. This is causing health officials in both states to consider opening eligibility earlier than May 1st to everyone over the age of 16.
We can make the whole process much more efficient. Now, we're not talking about doing this tomorrow, but every county in the state is different. So we've had some discussion with statewide, but maybe perhaps by sometime in mid-April, we might, we're going to be talking with the state and giving them some recommendations on that.
Health officials in both states.
Let me see if it's bad here too.
They also say that all depends on if deliveries keep refreshing the vaccine supply. If they continue at the rate they are now, both states say they will be ready.
You don't really realize what's happening in the moment until you go back later and look at it.
New at 6, a Forest Grove man story will be playing out nationwide starting tomorrow. We first introduced you to Kent and Rebecca Frazier last year.
All right, it's the phone, not the broadcaster. I was gonna turn off the broadcast, but it's okay.
When the couple was stuck on a cruise ship off the coast of Japan, right as the pandemic began. Well, now their story is part of a new HBO documentary. K2's Allison Mechanic has been sharing their story for this past year. So, Allison, how did this documentary come about?
Well, Deb, Kent and Rebecca Frazier were first contacted by this film crew shortly after they returned back to Oregon after being stranded on that cruise ship for more than a month. We first shared Kent and Rebecca's story last year, but the new HBO documentary will further dig into their experience as well as other passengers who were on the ship. It's unique because this film is mostly put together by passengers' pictures, videos, and their own personal recordings, and this was all taken only last year.
What is that doing?
Just watching some of the footage, it can bring back a lot of anxiety, and there's some of the footage that I actually don't even remember recording. So I don't know if there was some sort of mind block going on there.
The documentary is called The Last Cruise, and it will start streaming on HBO and HBO Max tomorrow. Now, coming up tonight on K2 News at 11, we're going to continue talking to Kent. We're going to share a little bit more about his role in creating this documentary and also the message that he hopes people take after watching it. Live in Southeast Portland, Allison McKenna, K2 News.
Allison, thank you.
Did I even check the promotions?
We now know 2 positive coronavirus cases in the Oregon legislature. It's the first bout with COVID since lawmakers returned to Salem this session, and now it's led to a change at the Capitol. House Speaker Tina Kotek directed staff to start using a computer to read some of the lengthy bills upon final passage to reduce the risk of virus transmission. We're hearing some frustration from both Democrats and Republicans.
It's really frustrating because it puts us and our staff and staff in the Capitol and legislators at risk, as well as our families.
The House is set to resume floor sessions tomorrow morning, given that there isn't another positive COVID case.
4 people are now facing charges in connection to the dueling protests at the Oregon State Capitol.
Not another, what?
Our families.
The House is set to resume floor sessions tomorrow morning, given that there isn't another positive COVID case.
4 people are now facing charges in connection to the dueling protests at the Oregon State Capitol. Video obtained by K2 News shows things got a little out of hand yesterday. Of those arrested, their ages range from 18 to 34, and their charges range from disorderly conduct to interfering with a police officer. There's a new way to track crime in your area. Just go to KATU.com, look for Alert Nest under the News tab, then type your address or a general area next to the orange search icon to get a look at recent crime reports filed in your area. Alert Nest is an investment entity owned by Sinclair Broadcast Group, the ultimate parent company of K2.
If we do it right, we can bring the community with us, and that's all the community.
This week, Portland city leaders are inviting Black men to weigh in on policing in the city. And this comes nearly a year after protests for racial and social justice started in the wake of the death of George Floyd. K2's Wright Gasway is live for us at City Hall. So, Wright, what's the purpose of this town hall?
Commissioner Joy Hardesty points to the data showing Black men are the people most impacted by changes in policing. She says this meeting shows them their voices matter. Thousands marched for social justice in Portland last year. Among the things they wanted, police reform and how communities of color are impacted. Commissioner Joy Hardesty says Tuesday's town hall with Mayor Ted Wheeler and Black men from 14 to 44 is necessary given the data.
Over 50% of the stops are Black people, and yet they are not helping us inform policy.
Hardesty says this marks an end to that. Last year, I sat down with these men who told me city leaders do not do enough to give them a seat at the table. They said city leaders needed to empower them to help affect positive change in their neighborhoods. Will Johnson put it simply.
That Black lives truly matter. Be practical, like I heard it said, share some of those resources.
Hardesty says this should be the first in a series of community conversations about public safety and what role the police play in that. She says the community needs to tell city leaders what it wants from police.
Because this cannot be a one-off conversation. These men have opinions, they have lived experience, they have expertise. They know what's wrong and what needs to be fixed, and they need to be a part.
A promise Hardesty says she plans to keep. We've got a link to sign up for this town hall on K2.com. This all comes as City Council weighs increasing the funding for the Portland Police Bureau to address gun violence. Hardesty says they'll discuss that as well. Live at City Hall, Wright Gasway, K2 News.
Right, thank you. Oregon families can expect another payday. From the
Sorry, I still, what?
More tax.
I said I would drink some more coffee because my brain is not processing the information.
The dollars working out the deep challenge, according to land change. Oregon tax returns are going to start for government within the next few months, thanks to recently passed stimulus bill.
Hardesty said, what
Black lives
do not do enough in the data.
Over 50% of the stops are Black people, and yet they are not helping us inform policy.
Hardesty says this marks an end to that. Last year, I sat down with these men who told me city leaders do not do enough to give them a seat at the table. They said city leaders needed to empower them to help affect positive change in their neighborhoods. Will Johnson put it simply.
That Black lives truly matter. Be practical, like how Harvard said. Share some of those resources.
Hardesty says this should be the first in a series of
All
community
right,
conversations.
how many?
to
Okay,
change in their
I'm
neighborhoods.
picking the coffee up right now.
Before is necessary given the data.
Over 50% of the stops are Black people, and yet they are not helping us inform policy.
Hardesty says this marks an end to that. Last year, I sat down with these men who told me city leaders do not do enough to give them a seat at the table. They said city leaders needed to empower them to help affect positive change in their neighborhoods. Will Johnson put it simply.
And Black lives truly matter. Be practical, like how Harvard said. Share some of those resources.
Hardesty says this should be the first in a series of community conversations about public safety and what role the police play in that. She says the community needs to tell city leaders what it wants from police.
Because cannot be a one-off conversation. These men have opinions, they have lived experience, they have expertise. They know what's wrong and what needs to be fixed, and they need to be a part.
A promise Hardesty says she plans to keep. We've got a link to sign up for this town hall on K2.com.
They know what's wrong and what needs to be fixed, and they need to.
From police.
Because cannot be a one-off conversation. These men have opinions, they have lived experience, they have expertise. They know what's wrong and what needs to be fixed, and they need to be a part.
A promise Hardesty says she plans to keep. We've got a link to sign up for this town hall on K2.com. This all comes as City Council weighs increasing the funding for the Portland Police Bureau to address gun violence. Hardesty says they'll discuss that as well. Live at City Hall, Wright Gasser, K2 News.
Right, thank you. Oregon families can expect another payday from the federal government within the next few months, thanks to recently passed stimulus bill. An expanded child tax credit paid in advance could infuse thousands into households with kids, up to $3,600 per child, in fact, and there's talk of making that permanent. K2's Keaton Thomas is following the money. When can families expect to get that money, Keaton?
Well, you could start to get it as early as July. Now, half would be paid this year, the other half would be paid when you file your taxes next year. After all, this is basically an advance on the tax returns that you're going to file in 2022.
We've talked so much about stimulus checks, about an extension for federal unemployment benefits, but an expanded child tax credit could have a major impact in Oregon. Until now, families with kids could claim a maximum of $2,000 per kid under 17. You had to make a minimum of $2,500 to qualify. The American Rescue Plan changed that for your 2021 taxes. It increased the maximum to $3,600 per kid under 6 years old, $3,000 for kids between 6 and 17. Now there's no income requirement either.
Specifically, the improvements will affect 90% of Oregon children.
Janet Bauer, a policy analyst with the Oregon Center for Public Policy, said about 300,000 Oregon kids will get the full amount. And the changes, Bauer said, are especially good news for families with little to no income.
The impact of that on child poverty in Oregon will be profound. For instance, by our estimation, child poverty will be cut by a third.
But ensuring everyone has access will be a challenge, according to Garrett Watson, a senior policy analyst at the Tax Foundation.
The big population that will need to be in touch with is non-filers.
He said the IRS is still working out the details, but lawmakers hope they can make monthly payments of that credit starting in July. So if you have a kid who qualifies for $3,000, you would get a monthly.
What did he say?
And oh my God. He said the IRS is still working out the details, but lawmakers hope they can make monthly payments of that credit starting in July. So if you have a kid who qualifies for $3,000, you would get a monthly payment of $250 from July to December. There's also talk in Washington, D.C. to make the expanded credit permanent.
When made permanent, which I strongly support, this would cut child poverty in half.
Senator Ron Wyden chairs the Senate Finance Committee, which deals with taxation. It's a priority for him. And I checked with Republican lawmakers in our area. A spokesperson for Representative Jamie Herrero Butler was the only one to reply, telling me she would support making it permanent, but, quote, has concerns about additional deficit spending. Paying for that expanded credit this year is estimated to cost more than $100 billion.
If it were to be made permanent, how does the country continue to pay for this?
So it's a question of where you want to put the dollars. Do you want more tax breaks for multinational corporations, or do you want to give kids who are part of families where they're walking an economic tightrope a chance to get ahead?
Sustainability of a program like this will be a key conversation.
Hello.
$1.
I'm pausing this 1 second because my brain is not processing two things at once. All right. I'm looking at my story from 2 years ago, the day I got the migraine glasses, which really helped. What does this one say? All right, I'm going to share it and I'm going to say, migraine glasses help a lot. Sign up for email. Get $25 off your first purchase. Axon Optics. The migraine glasses for indoor fluorescent lighting that go over my glasses or for wearing on the bus. Axon Optics. If you sign up for email list, you can get $25 off first purchase at Axon Optics. Google Axon Optics. Post. Hello to the 14 people that are here. Who thinks I could get through the rest of this news broadcast with my brain functioning? Well, I had organic gummy bears, Halloween size package. I had some cold brew coffee made with coconut oil. I had my last piece of shmura matzah. That's the round kind that's made by hand from either Israel or New York. It's really good with avocado. So I need to eat some protein. All right. And I had methylated folate, which is a B vitamin.
Were to be made permanent, how does the country continue to pay for this?
So it's a question of where you want to put the dollars. Do you want more tax breaks for multinational corporations, or do you want to give kids who are part of families where they're walking an economic tightrope a chance to get ahead?
Sustainability of a program like this will be a key conversation moving forward, but it could provide another round of relief, especially for families on the edge.
Now, Senator Wyden told me today that he was meeting with the head of the IRS to go over some of those details, and he said one of the things that he hopes to make sure happens is that monthly payments would go out to people, hopefully starting here this summer in July.
Keaton, do people need to do anything to ensure they get that tax credit?
Steve, I did bring this to taxpayers or to tax experts, and right now they told me there's really nothing to do, but we'll be watching out for a portal to come up onto the IRS website, similar to that portal that we saw with the direct payments. That portal might allow someone to ensure that they have all of the correct information, the number of dependents, make sure the marital status hasn't changed, or even just ensure that the IRS has your banking information. So once we find that, we'll let you guys know how to get to it.
Keaton, thank you.
Keaton Thomas. Thank you. Well, coming up after the break, opening statements in a trial that has made headlines around the world. We have the latest as the trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin gets underway.
And a bit later tonight, Instagram is cracking down on digital predators. How the site is trying to stop adults from contacting children without permission. Dave,
what happened? Okay, clearly the ADD is still bad. What did she say?
Thank you.
Thomas. Thank you. Well, coming up after the break, opening statements in a trial that has made headlines around the world. We have the latest as the trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin gets underway.
And a bit later tonight, Instagram is cracking
I said I was
down on
going to check
digital
my
predators.
message,
How
my
the site
game.
is trying to stop adults from contacting children without permission. Dave, and are you ready for the first 70-degree day of 2021? Hold on, it's in the 7-day forecast. I'll show you when.
Check the farm game on Up Live. What are the tree? I was going to check if I got the email for my call that's starting at 7 that I don't have the email for. Let me check it again.
Spring sales event is on at Beaverton Kia. New 2020 Niro EV EX Premium with an incredible 239-mile range. Just $199 a month. See Bob Lanfear's Beaverton Kia now. The only Westside Kia dealer. BeavertonKia.com.
Throw away your distance and reading glasses. Join Doctors King and Kopstein for a free live webinar this Thursday at noon and find out if RLE is right for you. RLE from K2 Vision. No glasses, no contacts, no readers.
Create a vacation adventure in the comfort of Cougar Trailer, America's #1 choice, with 35 models to suit your style. At Curtis Trailers, the #1 RV dealer in Oregon, Portland, Beaverton, and CurtisTrailers.com.
Are your windows drafty, broken, or your energy bills on the rise? Champion is here to help. It's replacement window season.
There's the email, maybe.
Windows get 2 free at Champion.
Northwest Disability Support, what?
Then they are built in our very
Fights COVID with a comic book, okay.
And guaranteed for a lifetime by our best-in-class warranty. Right now, buy 2 windows, get 2 free. Call now or download our free buyer's guide at GetChampionWindows.com.
At Jacobs Heating and Air Conditioning, we never stop working to earn your trust.
We are committed to great service. You can count on us to get the job done right. We are the heating and cooling specialists.
We don't just fix it, we fix it right.
We only use the best products like Carrier.
All right, counting the Omer, day 1. No, day 2.
$2,400 in rebates on qualifying Carrier products. Turn to the experts.
I'm Brett Jacobs, committed to giving you the best since 1952.
Don't miss the big spring sales event going on now at Beaverton Kia. New 2021
All right, hello to the 15 of you, including Woof Woof. I saw Woof Woof checked in. All right, let me check this email. I still didn't finish my checking in on my game.
Our community of unique individuals create our own experience.
All right, let me check the game again. It's on
No better time to get busy.
Up Live.
He put his knees upon his neck and his back, grinding and crushing him until the very breath, no, ladies and gentlemen, until the very life were squeezed out of him. Derek Chauvin did exactly what he had been trained to do over the course of his 19-year career.
I need one more.
Minneapolis today, where the world is watching the trial of a former police officer accused in the death of George Floyd. Today, the trial of Derek Chauvin began.
Let's see if it works now.
Video that sparked protests all over the country.
For Spotlight on America, David Amalati is in Minneapolis with the latest on how each side opened their case.
We'll begin with opening statements. A monumental trial is underway in Minnesota. Former police officer Derek Chauvin faces 3 charges in the death of George Floyd last summer. Viral video of the incident.
I don't know why that didn't work.
Chauvin's knee on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes set off a firestorm of protests across the nation. All of it leading here to this moment in Minneapolis.
Mr. Derek Chauvin betrayed this badge.
Today, attorney Jerry Blackwell laying out the state's case, playing that video in full, saying Floyd expressed distress more than 24 times in those 9 minutes, with Chauvin not removing his knee even after paramedics arrived.
And you will be able to hear Mr. Floyd saying, "Please, I can't breathe."
The defense going next with
Let me try it again.
Nelson saying there's more to the story than the video, citing the angry crowd that surrounded the situation.
Okay, now I have 200.
And claiming Floyd's death was not asphyxiation, but triggered by other factors, including drug use.
You will learn that Derek Chauvin did exactly what he had been trained to do.
The defense gave a very short introduction to its case.
For instance, we expected to learn perhaps at the opening, although not necessarily, whether or not Mr. Chauvin will testify. Played his cards very close to his chest.
One legal analyst tells us the defense is trying to bring in reasonable doubt, the prosecution a more emotional side, but one thing is clear.
The prosecution and the defense made sure to say that this case is not about these larger issues. This case is not about police accountability or all of the police force. It's really about what one person did with respect to Mr. Floyd on this day.
We get a preview of the witness list today.
I still need 2 more boards.
Experts, so forensic pathologists and bystanders who were there when George Floyd died. Those witnesses will come into the courtroom starting tomorrow in Minneapolis. David Amilotti.
Let's talk about the weather. Bring in meteorologist Dave Selesky. You know, one of my favorite eras was the 70s. Oh, really? And disco, bell-bottom pants, Steve. I'm wearing my bell-bottoms right now, as a matter of fact. So, can you bring the 70s?
I'm missing that.
Yes, I am too. I can bring 70-degree temperatures back, but bell-bottoms, no. In the meantime, we're on track to see our first 70-degree day for you for 2021. Have not been that warm here in the Portland area since October 7th of 2020. Dry skies ahead. Overnight tonight, going to be chilly though. Temperatures going to start out in the low 30s across the area. Could see some frost across much of the region. Stoller Estates camera outside of Dayton, we can see 51 degrees, sunny skies there at this hour. Over on the Oregon coast, partly to mostly cloudy skies, but dry at this hour from our camera in Spanish, and a little chilly. 45, the current numbers there. Here are your daytime highs across the area. 53 for Camas and Troutdale, 50 for Sandy, up in Vancouver, 54. There you have Beaverton, 51 and 53 down in Aurora. Just 48 this afternoon for the afternoon high in Tigard, well below average for this time of the year. Now, higher pressure is taking control of the atmosphere, and that means dry skies across the region. But with this fall coming in out of the north this evening, overnight lows tonight, will be dropping down into the, again, upper 20s to low 30s across the area. No precipitation, but again, plenty of sunshine. There's that dry north-northeasterly flow for tomorrow afternoon. We're talking mostly sunny skies across the area, and temperatures warming up a little bit for tomorrow on Tuesday. But by Wednesday, the big change happens with, again, fair skies all day long. Drier conditions, warmer air arrives, and we see overnight lows tonight again dropping down into the 30s across the area. There you have 30 in Hillsborough, 32 for Vancouver, 34 for Troutdale, and 34 up in Sandy. So again, could see some areas of frost tomorrow. Afternoon highs warming up into the upper 50s across the area. But now look what happens by the time we get in towards Wednesday. Roll the clock ahead, and we're talking, this computer model is suggesting just mid-60s, but I'm thinking right now going to be upper 60s to low 70s across the region as we get in towards Wednesday afternoon. Of course, Easter Sunday coming up this Sunday. And again, a lot of questions been talking about Easter Sunday this year, April 5th. Last year was April 12th. In 2022, it's going to be on April 17th. So why the change? It has to do with the moon. Easter Sunday always follows the full moon of the spring equinox. So again, first Sunday after the full moon of the spring equinox, you get Easter Sunday. This Sunday, we have a chance of partly cloudy skies and maybe seeing some showers in the afternoon for Easter Sunday. Your forecast for tomorrow, Tuesday, west side of the Cascades, mostly sunny skies. There's a chance of some frost again. Afternoon highs, though, warming up into the upper 50s. For the east side, sunny skies, but cold in the morning. We're talking early morning temperatures in the teens and 20s. Highs tomorrow in the 40s and mid to upper 50s across the area. 7-day forecast tomorrow for Portland, 57. There's that first 70 of 2021. A bit cooler for you on Thursday, back down into the upper 50s on Friday and Saturday. There's Easter Sunday, daytime high 58 with that 40% chance of seeing some rain showers.
Big tech under big pressure. I'm Angela Brown in Washington. What's being done to make social media safer for children?
Sign up
for the Innovation Challenge at katu.com/innovation.
With your masculine attitude, always called and waited.
Should I try for... How many diamonds do I have? 3? What was that noise? Was that on the TV? It was. It sounded like a doorbell. I don't think that mission works for less than 5. To get the spin, you need to have 5 diamonds. Let me check this. I have 8 play gold games.
$169 a month. See your Pacific Northwest Hyundai dealer.
If anyone wants a link to UpLife, send me a DM on Twitter. At Harvard Journal or at Harvard Journal and the number 2. All right, I have 4 minutes. Let me check into my second account. Log out. Confirm.
Goli makes weight loss simple.
Log into another account.
All day energy. Simple.
I'm ending this in
Cutting cravings.
4 minutes.
Simple.
And it's simply delicious. Healthy doesn't
Log in.
bad. In fact,
Let me try this.
Goli is
Game.
actually delicious.
You heard me spin the wheel because I had the volume on. Let's try this.
10% off plus free shipping.
Want to save hundreds on your wireless bill? With Xfinity Mobile.
Hear the wheel?
How about saving hundreds on the new Samsung Galaxy
50
S21?
experience.
You can do that too.
Let me try $1 Million Baby.
Reliable network? Sure thing. And with
Mission.
nationwide 5G included,
Check
no
in.
extra cost, we got
50
you covered.
experience.
So join the carrier rated #1 in customer satisfaction. And learn how much you can save at xfinitymobile.com/mysavings. This spring, check out a new Hyundai SUV. It's the upgrade you've been looking for. Only at the Hyundai Spring Upgrade
16 Dream Funding points. Play gold games.
in total savings on the Kona.
I just check in and get 200 free gold. Let me check the farm game.
What do you look for in an ice cream?
Bob is on. Should we say hi to Bob? What is Bob doing?
With Jesse Tyler Burton. Redo all new grid.
Tomorrow at 3 on KQ.
Oh my God.
Virtual learning has increased the amount of time kids spend on their computers for sure. More time online means more risk to digital predators.
So what is big tech doing to reduce child exploitation and abuse on their platforms? Sinclair National correspondent Angela Brown is here to tell us how tech companies are trying to keep your kids safe.
Big tech has a legal and ethical responsibility to make their platforms safer for children, but it's also good for their bottom line. Predators sliding into a child's DM. Parents like Dr. Tracy Burkett knew the dangers when she allowed her girls at 13 to join Instagram.
That just seemed like a good point, kind of a milestone, the teen years, and it seemed like a good kind of a rite of passage. And it made me nervous, still does.
Omnicore, a digital marketing agency, found 57 million U.S. teens say Instagram is their preferred social media platform, while 72% of teens use Instagram. This month, Instagram announced a new feature preventing adults from sending messages to people under 18 who do not follow them. Cybersecurity expert Lisa Garber says these companies have an ethical responsibility to protect minors.
While there might not necessarily be a federal law or even a state law about the practice of DMing or communicating on these platforms between minors and adults, these companies do recognize an obligation, and they also recognize, I'm sure, the PR issues surrounding it as well.
Facebook owns Instagram. Last month, Facebook announced they are testing 2 new tools to reduce sharing of child exploitative content. The first is a pop-up shown to people on their apps who search for terms associated with child exploitation, offering ways to get help or the consequences of viewing that content. The second is really a safety alert, warning people who have shared child exploitative content about the legal consequences and the harm to minors. Experts say big tech needs to act before regulators.
They need to interact positively with regulators to not just get on their good side, but to help shape the evolution of regulation in this space.
But this mom of 2 teens says technology can only do so much.
It had, people try to follow them. So they asked, well, what's your strategy there to decide whether to allow that? And they were smart. They said, well, I checked to see if they know my friends and how many friends, and doing kind of a nice job of vetting.
There are existing laws protecting minors online, including the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act that prohibits companies from collecting the data of children under 13 without their parents' consent. In Washington, I'm Angela Brown.
Okay, we're out. Have a good one. Goodbye. And broadcast.